Well, Annie, nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
You okay?
No.
What's going on?
Just the unknown of everything, you know? And me sort of being in the dark and you probably being more privy to information than I am about the situation at hand. Because the moment I found out, when Etta told me that you were going to be participating, that mostly told me everything I needed to hear to know that it's likely justified, but I'm
That's
not
not.
sure. Because if you tell me you're doing it just to be alongside everybody else to ensure that there's safety in numbers, I don't know that I believe you. I don't know that I would believe you because you operate on principle. And it doesn't matter if you're going against the top of the top, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And so when I heard that you were participating, that sort of solidified it in my mind that it's probably justified. But is it?
I'm still not sure. I'll be honest. I think word probably is what I would use too. But there really is no guarantees here. For once, I'm not seeing in black and white. There's a lot of things that we did wrong, and there's a hell of a lot of things that they've done wrong. Um, I spent the last few days really fighting to get all the information, and we got it. And most of it's been disseminated into the PD anyway, through announcements or like Divine's affidavit. So he was undercover. So I think a lot of the information we're getting is true, but whether that means that it's right for us to go over there and kick him out, it's a pretty big question. But I'm sorry to disappoint. Um, I am going to make sure that we're doing things right and people are going to be as safe as they can be.
Follow up question. Would you be doing this if you weren't the assistant chief of police? Or do you feel obligated because you are and you're expected to lead by example?
I think it completely depends on where I was as an officer, really. Because if I
Let's
could
just
do
say
the
you were a
same
senior
thing,
officer.
if I could do the same thing that I've requested to do, and I was allowed to do that, then I think I would. I think I would be. I'll be straight with you. A lot of the reason I'm going, you're right, is because Chief isn't going for her own reasons, and I felt like hearts and minds win wars, and I would be worried about people's hearts and minds in LSPD if they didn't see a single member of their high command going, and that would just cause. I don't know what kind of problems they would cause, but at least if I'm there in some capacity, they know that at least they've got some support from above them, So yeah, it does play a part. I couldn't answer you whether it would change whether I'm going or not. And like I said to Etta, I'm in.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know
be.
that I agree with the logic. The logic is okay. I want to make this clear. I'm not. I'm just here to understand. Okay, I'm not here to
Mhm.
change your opinion. Quite frankly, I don't think anything is going to change your stance. Okay, but the logic you're arguing is no different than when someone says, "I'm afraid to fly alone," and when they say or when they're asked why, they justify it by saying, well, what if the plane crashes? And it's like, okay, so you would rather die alongside someone you care about for the sake of being together. There's no
I
logic
think
in that.
I'll
Outside of
use
maybe comfort.
I'll use your analogy.
Okay.
If I was to, I don't know how to describe this, but if I'm on that airplane and I'm coming along as that passenger, whether it's for comfort for the other people or not, it's also being there so that when things start happening, the pilot isn't distracted because everybody in the plane is screaming. I'm going there to make sure that comms are in order. People understand how to use radio comms in situations like this, because it's a very small amount of military experience I have. I can help with that. And I think I could save people's lives by doing that.
I can agree with that.
And Stubble needs all the help he can get from people who actually care about people.
I guess my concern more so stems from is any of this worth it? What happens at the end?
It's a really good question.
Because if I'm
Ideally,
presented with an equation where there's a lot of injured people from the police department, dead police officers, and there's a handful of dead people from the island that was well equipped, and the only outcome is that they have been caught and nothing else changes, what was the point? Because at that point, I don't think it's worth it.
the senator wasn't exactly clear with his plans or their plans with what happens to the island afterwards, but it's not going back in Jaeger's hands. I can tell you that much. Ideally, these explosions stop or at least slow down. I think the way
Can I
Owen
bring
does
something up?
Yeah.
Forehead sold me an RPG. In fact, I've received 2 RPGs from Forehead. Prior to that island ever being in this equation. So why does the island matter?
That's an argument that's been brought up, but when you think about it, all the past 2-3 months, all I've heard about every day is a bomb has been planted here, a bomb has been planted here. That wasn't happening before. That is a recent, like, it's the amount of explosives, bombs specifically, that have been planted in Los Santos has risen substantially in the past few months.
I can agree with that sentiment. I can. It just, if the expectation is that everything is going to stop, I don't believe it.
Neither do I. I don't think it will stop because people are always going to find a way to do that kind of thing, but we can slow it down. The way Owen described it was, he was half joking as ways to, make it more consumable, I guess. But he said this is just a raid. This is just a really big raid on someone's property. They were given the property by the Senate, supposedly, and that's how it went. They've misused it, and now we're raiding it, and we're taking it back.
So, is the island considered a different state?
The island is currently considered a sovereign nation. Well, that's been removed since the treaty was broken, but so it's
How does that get removed? what I'm trying to get at here is it just doesn't. Things don't add up.
It's messy. Yeah.
Very messy.
There was a million ways this could have been handled better. But
And why does it have to be this way?
Because the Senate decided that... Well, my opinion is because the Senate decided it was Axel and Brian that would be best at communicating this and having these negotiations. Obviously, there's other reasons. Like, Jaeger's, he's not going to want to give it up. And
same Senate that on countless occasions removed myself and Pred as sheriff and undersheriff.
Same Senate that shot Rudy Rinson in the face when he was unarmed up at the Lost MC Clubhouse, which started, that war last time. I don't know whether it started it, but it certainly didn't make it better.
I'm finding it more and more difficult to believe or even trust the Senate, given the circumstances.
To give you a timeline, Brian and MCU were doing investigations into all the bombings in Los Santos through subpoenas and search warrants and stuff like that. Through information gathering, things kept linking back to Sanguine, which added up with Johnny Devine, who was undercover, his affidavit and his statements that were made while he was there undercover. So things matched up, information was gathered, and that was presented to the Senate. The Senate then looked at that stuff and was like, okay, we're dissolving the treaty and we need to negotiate to stop this from happening. That's the very basic timeline. So it's I don't know.
When was that island considered a sovereign state, nation, whatever?
Whenever the legislation came in. So the legislation, which was Sanguine Isles sovereignty and extradition policy. So it's 4 months ago. So the reason that we can take it away, I guess, is the state of San Andreas, via Senate action, recognizes the Sanguine Isle as a sovereign state. I think that's the line that was put in the treaty so that they can, I guess, unrecognize it. I don't know the politics on that, I really don't. It also says that it was a jurisdiction and it's a state. Nothing was really mentioned about it being its own kind of thing. I don't know. Again, to give you the timeline, so Divine was undercover. He got discovered, was pissed off. He was pulled out
through our fault.
Right, very much through our fault. While after Bass died, at the cemetery, Owen Dundee was pissing on Bass's grave. Divine saw him do it and shot him in the head. So he ended up going back to the island. We had found out about Divine doing this to Dundee, and so we were looking to get him extradited, which was written into the treaties and stuff like that, where basically Aegis, who was the border protection service overlooking everything, are allowed to go in and extradite somebody from the island, or vice versa, from any side.
Right.
And so Axel and Brian and some other people went over to try and extradite him, and that's when Jaeger was like, no, that's not happening. So in their eyes, and the Senate's eyes, that's when the treaty broke down, because they denied extradition. Whereas obviously Jaeger argues that the treaty broke down when they sent somebody undercover to the island.
I was given a different version of events. And I'm gonna make this clear because I don't want there to be any like, oh hey, you were on the phone. I was on the phone with Jaeger for probably close to 45 minutes. I don't even know at this point. Just discussing things, and I was very clear. I'm not there on the phone to change his mind or reconsider or assist or provide information in any way, shape, or form. It was just a conversation where he did 99% of the talking and I was listening because I made it clear. It doesn't matter whether or not he would be willing to snitch, if you will, that I either agreed or disagreed with something. Or believe that he would tell anyone if I was in line with, what he was saying. Because at the end of the day, I made it clear that if I ever got subpoenaed to court and was asked questions, I'm answering truthfully every time, and that's not changing given the circumstances. I will not lie in court, which means it doesn't matter that Jaeger is going or not going to say anything. If I said something that would get me thrown in prison for 3 years without due process, the point is that it matters to me. And so he understood that and did 99% of the talking throughout that conversation. And a lot of the discussion was why this all broke down the way it did. He's telling me that there was what was it? I have it in my notes here. Writing stuff down.
And who was this?
He was
Just clarify,
telling
this
me-
was Trey?
No, Jaeger.
Oh, yeah, Jaeger spoke to you on the phone.
Yes.
So,
I called him, actually.
Yeah, Trey phoned me the other day.
Yeah, he phoned me as well. Let me see. It was something in regards to he said when we found out Divine was Divine and he called Shelby, obviously Brian, Axel, Toretti, and I think Shelby knew about it, whatever. They came to my island unannounced. I told them to leave. I'm not in the mood to talk, considering that they sent a spy and broke any sort of good faith. He repeated, I told them to leave because they pissed me off. They left. And after I told them to leave, I told Divine, look, I could kill you, but what does that accomplish? It accomplishes nothing. I think it's better for you to live with the fact that the people closest to you let you get exposed in an operation. He then threw him on a boat and said, get the fuck out. And after that happened, Brian sent him a text and said, I'm on your landing pad on your island on official Aegis business. And from my understanding, he then told Brian, you're welcome to come and search for him or something to that extent. And then he never did. And from my understanding, Brian then, I could be wrong here, I'm just providing information that I received from Jaeger. Brian then utilized those text messages as some evidence or proof or justification behind everything that's going on now. And then tried to clarify later that...
Oh, jeez.
The whole thing was Brian trying to extradite Divine. He was given permission again to search everything, never did because he didn't care to come. And then Jaeger made it clear that it was never about Divine, and all it was a paper trail to support a lie, to show the Senate, to justify what's going on. Now, I don't know what was provided to the Senate, but I don't think these people would be risking their lives if... I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the information that Divine provided. Like, I genuinely, I have no idea. But I know Divine is similar to you and that y'all operate on principle. Now, I don't think that you would ever step out of line like Divine would. Divine can have some built up anger that can make him snap. But I don't think, I genuinely don't think that Divine would, without reason, from my understanding, again, third party information, I'm getting this from Jaeger, spit at the commissioner and walk away.
I think he might, given that we were the ones who leaked that he was undercover.
Okay, but then if he's here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's the extradition portion for?
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
understand that.
Well, I asked the same question. Why was the extradition not brought up in the negotiations the other day? If that was the reason the treaty broke, why wasn't that brought up after the fact? It doesn't add up. It just really doesn't.
Which is why Jaeger made it clear that it's because it was never about the extradition. It was solely about creating a false paper trail on the basis of that to then get it to pivot and become something else. You were. Did you see the LSBN stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Anything about Divine? I think the only mention of him was from Jaeger.
Oh, I called out Axel on that disaster.
And nothing about an officer. You know what there was? Let us search every nook and cranny for bombs and explosives. Is that really... There's no way I can, in good faith, listen to that and go, I'm going to help. Right? For the same reason I would read a report before executing an arrest warrant, right? If there isn't enough there, the person, if I don't believe that there's enough, I can't in good faith arrest a person. If someone puts up a report, doesn't fill it out, indicates that these are the charges for a person, we get him in custody, we get down to Mission Row only to find out that there's no statement of PC, we as officers have an obligation to check that, right? And verify that there is enough. And I can't look at the situation and go, there is enough. And I'm okay with other people, and I've made this clear, I'm okay with other people deciding on their own that they are going to follow the people above them, because that's what we teach them every day, consistently. If I make a bad call, that falls on me, not you following my order. Right? We tell people that every single day. And so I'm not going to fault officers for what I'm going to say, blindly trusting people, because that's the expectation. I guess it becomes more apparent that there are situations in which that isn't ideal. And that's okay. There is no one-size-fits-all solution to every problem, right? We have standard operating procedures, but not everything is standard. And I would say this isn't a standard situation. So it makes sense that for me, this falls outside of the, if someone above you in rank tells you to do something, you do it. And if that decision is wrong, then, you know, ultimately that's going to fall on the person who made that decision.
No, I made this I made it a real point, because there was a lot of people at that debrief post negotiation questioning the decisions of Axel and the Senate. So there was a lot of brave people standing up and actually questioning things. And I had Brian tell me that he had to shut down those questions because they were idiotic. And I had it out with him, because you cannot possibly say that questions when it comes to marching on someone else's, nation and killing them, any question regarding the legality or reasons for that can be called idiotic. It was just like, again, what you said, it was all about him believing that we should blindly follow the chain of command without questioning it. But there's history shows that a lot of people do that. A lot of people blindly follow the people in charge, and it gets a lot of people killed. There's a lot of mess in this situation, and I really don't think either side is in the right. What the you hear that? Anyway, I heard like
on.
no, it was like a rocket. I don't think either side's in the right. I don't think that's if we ran and we found some critical piece of evidence right now that said that this war shouldn't happen, I don't think that would even be able to stop it. I don't think the Senate would look at that and go, okay, you know what, you're right. We shouldn't do this. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think that's out of our hands. And I don't know.
Things have been out of our hands since the Senate was implemented. You realize that, right?
Yep.
The change in BCSO, PBSO, CPD, PBSO, any major change, whether that be removal from sheriff, undersheriff, or marshal, none of it mattered because ultimately it was the Senate who decided. One day they just upped and decided that me and Pred were no longer police officers. Just straight up, not police officers at all. And then we were. And then we got split. And then we were still the best department. We got renamed and we had to do a bunch of things, but we did it time and time again, over and over. And so I don't have much trust in the Senate, if I'm being honest. I've been shafted over and over by the Senate, which is why, again, I'm not a fan.
I don't think anybody is. I really don't think anybody is. Nobody really knows who they are. Someone asked me this question the other day, and they're like, "Who's the Senate?" And I just said, "They're a bunch of old men making decisions about a state they really don't have much to do with." And I think that sounds pretty accurate. It sounds pretty familiar to politics these days.
Not wrong. Okay. So, trust you. Trust you're going to make the right decision. And I trust that everyone involved is going to do the right thing. Just know that the people that you're going against are not stupid. If they know Stubble is there, if they know you're there, if they know Snow's there, if they know that anyone is there capable of leading and they can identify y'all as targets, y'all are going to be the first ones they go for. Especially Stubble.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're not going to be on the ground.
What are you doing?
Myself and Stubble are going to be in an AC-130, probably flying at ridiculous heights. Then the second in command, I believe, is Snow, who is going to be obviously flying jets and things. I couldn't tell you who the third in command is, but all I'm there for is to be Stubble's radio, because the radio system we've got set up is not squad leaders on a radio. It's someone in the squad who's kind of volunteered to do it. And obviously, there's gonna be we got over 100 people signed up. That could get very messy if you know. But yeah, me and Stubble are gonna be up in the air.
Did Trey tell you what he told me in regards to they have stuff?
What does that mean?
I don't
He sent
know
me
because
he sent me a text message of the mobile anti-aircraft. Oh, that was a tweet. No, he sent me a text message of him standing with a rocket launcher, an RPG, and then a heat-seeking lock-on missile, and said, "Best of luck out there. I hope you're not in the air on Friday."
What if they have things that we just haven't encountered before? Like the things
It's
that start running through my mind is what if they have some form of like ability to jam radios and
yeah.
you and Stubble are up in the sky, unable to communicate. And so the brain is disconnected from the body, and then that's just an absolute disaster.
Certainly possible. Yeah. But
And if that happens, who does what?
well, I mean, technology like that is normally like long range radios get blocked, so we'd have to get like some old manual walkie talkies, and then we'd probably have to land, grab a bunch, and pass them out to everybody. And it's not gonna be great because
You're
it's gonna be
gonna
really
land.
short. We're gonna land. We probably have to land.
Even though Barrack got blown out of the sky.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility that I'm gonna step foot on that island, but I don't plan on shooting anybody unless I have to.
Are you gonna have a parachute?
I'd hope so.
Because if Barrack was blown out of the sky and there's no reasonable means of dodging whatever is flying your way, the jet doesn't matter.
No, I know.
And if you can safely parachute out, why not?
No, I completely agree. I'll be bailing as long as it doesn't. As long as I don't land in the water, because I'm, I only got one hand, so I'm not exactly great at swimming.
What plane are you going to be in?
I think Stubble said an AC-130.
That the big massive ones?
The big massive one, yeah.
Doesn't that make you a very big target?
I think we're probably going to be flying at like 50,000 feet or something like that. Just like how the president goes on that plane, Air Force One. Is that it?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's safe. Nice and high in the sky.
Okay.
Beyond the clouds.
I trust Stubble. I trust the people involved, okay? I do think that moving forward, we're going to have this conversation afterwards. I do think that if we are expected to do stuff like this, if we are asked to do stuff like this, that we don't have to sit there and second guess if it's justified. That this stuff should be explained from the start and not, I mean, I understand Brian, and I would have been in Brian's position. Okay, but like the level of messiness involved here is crazy. Brian openly discussing in front of a news reporter with a camera how to PR a message, a state announcement. That's not okay.
Between me and you, me and the rest of High Command had it out with Axel on Brian's involvement in this whole mess and how he's been acting, and he'll likely be getting suspended after the fact.
If he's suspended after the fact, there's no punishment.
I understand, but at the same time, MCU might save more lives than anybody in this, just for the information they've gathered over the past few days. Like, there is sea mines around that place. They have mapped out ways for us to get onto the island underwater safely. Bobby and some of the others have actually been on the island and found a static AA gun that we didn't know about. So we were just looking for this mobile AA thing that's been towed, but we didn't know about the static one because it was all covered up from above. But they managed to find that. And again, I've said this 1,000 times. I really don't like Brian, but he knows what it's doing when it comes to MCU. So, yeah, basically all of Pike Men are on the same page. We are sick of being left out of all the, because it's always Brian straight to the commissioner and then straight to the Senate. We get left out on every step. And some of us didn't even know this shit was happening until it's happened. And then we're trying to pick up the pieces and yeah. Oh, the commissioner did tell me to shut the fuck up the other day.
Why?
Because I called him out on the travesty that was the negotiations.
And was it just left at shut the fuck up?
From him, yeah. I carried on talking and explaining why everybody's pissed off and not understanding everything. I made sure he knew that a lot of the questions are coming because nobody trusts him and he's only been around 3 weeks and we're already at war. But I also understand that he's been put in a very difficult position because if he's been given orders by the Senate, and he clearly isn't the most political guy when it comes to his charisma, he was put in a very difficult position. So, yeah, I don't know. I've unfortunately, I listen. I've thought about this for the past few days, and I've come to the conclusion that there's nothing that can be realistically be done about it at this point. It's happening, so I might as well do the best I can to, help things out and help Stubble out. Stubble's in the same boat, by the way. He doesn't necessarily agree with everything that's happening. There's a lot of information that is wishy-washy, but if it's happening, he's glad that it's him doing it and not somebody like Brian or Axel who probably won't care about throwing people into the fray and, picking up the dog tags afterwards.
You know what I think the unfortunate reality is?
Mm-hmm.
I think if people like you and Stubble and Snow weren't involved, that so many other people wouldn't be involved. And I think a lot of people who care about y'all, and for example, remember what I said, the moment Etta told me that you were involved, that eased my mind into the justification behind us even doing this to begin with. And I think a lot of people would hold the same mindset of people like you, Stubble, Snow, right? I'm just throwing a few names out there. And as a result, a lot of people are jumping on board without the full context, just knowing that y'all likely wouldn't have been on board if it wasn't justified. And I think if that was made clear at the beginning, this situation would be different entirely. Because I can tell you now, if the numbers that I'm seeing on that announcement are correct, I don't think they'd be anywhere near the ratio of going and not going if just those three names alone weren't present in going.
Yeah. I think it's all a trust thing, right?
It is.
Axel doesn't have that trust yet. Brian has lost that trust on several occasions from a lot of people.
I mean, you can sort of, trace similar situations back to Pred, right?
Yeah.
Pred on countless occasions did things that, maybe he shouldn't have, but because Pred was doing it, a lot of other people were on board.
If
and I
Pred
think
was,
the same thing applies.
Can you imagine if Pred was the one leading the charge? It would be such a different story. I'll be honest, I think negotiations probably would have gone the same way. But still, I think people would have just had a lot more trust that Pred is doing the right thing. Because at the end of the day, for the most part, Pred, even if he didn't do it the right way, he was mostly doing the right thing.
Yeah, not wrong. It was always the execution with Pred.
Yeah. He had good
A bit
intentions,
iffy.
but yeah.
Bit iffy. All right. Okay. I just want you to know I trust you. Okay. Stay
Okay.
safe
You too.
and don't do
So
anything stupid.
I could say the same to you. There might be some stuff happening here too. So just hold down the
Oh,
fort.
no. You think they're gonna attack people uninvolved?
I would, if I was not necessarily uninvolved, but you fight a war on two fronts.
But if they find that I'm here, we're married, and they
I
take
don't
me
think
hostage.
I don't think my name is as involved as the others. There's wanted posters for Axel and Bryant for like 5 million a pop. There's nothing of the sort for
Dead,
it's.
alive? What are we talking?
I
Five
think it was
million's a
dead
lot
or
of money.
alive.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. So if something were to happen to never mind. It was a joke. It was
No,
just a joke,
those
honey.
jokes have been had already. Don't worry. But no, this is the thing. It's like everybody knows that Stubble is involved, like from both sides, but nothing's been put out for him because everybody respects him. So I think he's had conversations, with both sides. So
Jaeger, um, he. I mean, like I said, I noted most, if not all, of what he said, as he was talking. It was quite difficult. But one of the things he had mentioned was that, um, like there was a level of respect between him and a few people. And there had always been that, right? Like he had always agreed he would never shoot a few officers, that being like
yeah,
myself and Copper, Snow, I think. Um, again, a few officers. And he said that, my lack of involvement here sort of solidifies that he chose, some of the right people to trust. And again, I said very little because I was being very mindful of how my actions and communications, because ultimately someone's going to subpoena his phone and my number's going to be there. And I was on a 45-minute phone call with him or however long it was, but it was me primarily listening. Um, but when that comes up, don't be surprised. I'm going to call Pred, by the way. I'm going to call Trey. And I'm going to call Divine because I don't know where he is. And I
right.
want to make sure he's okay. So when that happens, don't be surprised. Brian's probably going to ask me questions, and I'm not answering them. Because if this situation turned out the way it did because of him, I can only imagine how he's going to try to spin shit with me having phone calls with people suspected to be on the island.
I've
And for what
had
it's worth,
phone
Pred
calls.
is on the island.
Yeah, I know.
Which is no surprise given he made it clear, I guess, in a court case that he was going to be on the island.
You're an idiot.
I mean, it's Pred. What do you expect?
Do you see what Dennis Labar tweeted the other day?
No. What did he tweet?
The first thing he tweeted was, the Senate has no power over you, stand up for yourself, this kind of thing. And then someone asked him a question about what would you do? What would you do to stand up for yourself? And he said, if it was me, I would target government buildings and this, and this about, fighting back against the Senate. Now, I asked the DOJ the question, does this count for the new legislation about people, helping Sanguine? But they said it has to be actions. But even still, it was very disappointing to see, the old Chief Justice essentially
See
encouraging
that.
people to.
Well, do you know how you're doing things because you feel it's the right thing without having the full context? For example, Labar is
Sure.
someone who is a straight shot. He'll tell you right from the start his opinion. There's no sugarcoating shit. There's no hidden message when it comes to Labar. If you and I can sit here and collectively agree that we do not like the Senate, in fact, I hate the Senate given everything that they've had involvement in, including this,
Hmm.
If we can sit here, I, as a prior member of High Command, shafted several times as a result of the Senate, you, as a current member of High Command, right? And we can also acknowledge that a lot of people do not like the Senate based upon their actions, not assumptions, but their actual actions. And they are a consistent cause of issues. Is Labar really wrong?
I don't think it's wrong to say that the Senate should have no control over somebody. I just don't like the what's the
The call
word?
for violence?
Sure, it's a disregard of
Yeah, but
understanding when
hear
it
me
comes
out.
to.
Here, but we're not talking about a normal civilian. We're talking about someone with practically unlimited power who can point a finger and say, do this, and if you don't, they can sentence you to death if they so please.
Right, but why target? He's essentially saying target buildings that government buildings like that people like me and you work in.
I mean, aren't we kind of the Senate's weapons? I think
Sure.
I don't know if the implication there from Labar is, you know, they have to suffer some kind of consequence before they realize they're being led down this dangerous path by the Senate before they do something to the Senate. I don't know. That's like how I see Labar justifying it. But I think knowing Labar for as long as I have, I feel like his intent is to essentially, you know, make the suggestion of overthrowing the Senate, which, I mean, if you think about it, if they were to die, and I'm not saying that we should, okay, but if they were to die, no one has that power, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then all of our problems are kind of gone.
Yeah, until they bring in some more old fucks to take over. Who could be worse than the last ones? I don't know. It should be a voted position, but we don't have that
Yeah, I
choice.
agree, but I don't know that I trust anyone with that level of power. Nobody.
Yeah,
Zero.
me too.
Zero. All right, listen. I'll let you go. I'm gonna make these phone calls
I need to go pee, but
tomorrow
I'll
because
see
you're
you.
going to live.
I'll see you
Okay.
tomorrow.
We need to do stuff tomorrow because things are being wiped clean after today.
Yeah,
Given, you know,
yeah, that'd be nice. Be
yeah,
nice. I'll do
maybe.
that tomorrow.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
I'm
And
not saying goodbye because it's not goodbye.
yeah, I'm not either.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
One more thing.
Yeah.
You know the strain of weed, Matt Rhodes?
Yeah.
Apparently, that's off the streets, and there's now a Richard Dank.
Fuck's sake, Jesus Christ.
Richard is in the ICU.
Okay.
As far as I know, he is stable. He had an injury to his abdomen, and he was in the water for a long time. Apparently, I guess the helicopter, he was in some aircraft and it got shot down over the water. So, but yeah, uh, considering what some went through, his is actually pretty mild. So it's just overnight stay, or
Like
not overnight stay,
observation,
but
not so much like.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
They just want
All
to
right.
make sure that everything heals properly. I didn't get a chance to see him. They just kind of ushered him into the ICU, like right away. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I talked to the doctor.